When you actually begin to use this health journey as an opportunity to identify the real roots, the underlying identities, the belief systems, the repressed emotions, the traumas, when we actually lean in, you give yourself an opportunity to not just heal what's present, but to transform the nature of your life into something that is so nourishing to your system. Welcome to the Stay Grounded podcast. I'm your host, Raj Jana, co-founder at Liberate, and it's my mission to help you become the most grounded, loving, and authentic version of yourself that you can be. Each week, I interview guests in the fields of mindset, spirituality, and emotional well-being. My brilliant guests share their tools, tips, and unique perspectives to help you develop the skills you need to show up for the people that matter most in your life. Now let's dive in. Yo, what's up everyone, and welcome to the first of 3 full-length episodes on crisis and how to use a crisis as an opportunity to grow and reduce the suffering that is associated with said crisis. I said this in the little primer episode before, but crisis points are inevitable. We're all going to get them. We're all going to experience them. And how we choose to show up inside of these journeys, these moments of awakening, can dictate the way that we live and experience fulfillment in our lives. I truly believe that everything that creates suffering is here for us to understand, unpack, get curious about, and use as a mirror for understanding ourselves deeper. And so today, we're going to be diving into the first big crisis, which is health. And I've got Alex here, who's my compadre, my dear brother on this path, and we're going to really dive into what it means to sort of move through a health journey. What does that awakening actually open up for you? And and my background on this comes from having a company in the space. For those of you who don't know, I have a company called Liberate, where we support people who are going through significant health challenges actually lean into the crisis as an opportunity to grow and transform their nervous systems and actually create measurable improvements in their health by learning to lean into this type of work. So I have thousands of data points. I've seen thousands of journeys, and so I can share a lot of insights from that. But yeah, so I'll just pause there, and Alex, I'll let you kind of guide this conversation, because we've had many conversations about the nature of crisis, but I don't think we've ever gone deep on health.
I don't think we have. But when I was thinking about this conversation, I was thinking a lot about, we were talking about anything can be used as a vehicle for awakening. Health is one of those things that is so close to us because we are in our bodies all the time. We feel everything. And when something unexpected happens, or when a crisis comes up around our health, it could either spark panic, fear, anxiety, weird feelings in us. And so I think knowing how to move through those things in a way that is positive instead of creating more anxiety is something that I think everybody would be interested in learning about. And so I'm curious, from your perspective in the space with Liberate, what have you see be the commonality among people that they go through a health crisis and they come out the other side even more aware, awake, and in touch, in tune, and in truth with who they are?
And on the other side, I also want to add healed, or quote unquote, not healed, but healthier. Like they are more vibrant, more alive, right? Like, because I see two sides. I see people that are chronically ill, and then the ones that go down this sort of, that have this framing, this mindset, this perspective, end up actually creating better results for themselves. And so I think there's that piece that's really important, in that when you get sick, I think the first thing that we're trained, the belief system that we have, is let me go find a pill. Let me go and get it's very much like, let me find a way to reduce the symptom. What medicine do I need to take? What needs to happen for me to make it go away? But that making it go away is not actually making it go away. It's masking it, right? And then that might show up as another health symptom or another health condition. And so I think the first piece that I've always seen is like that 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 mindset that this is something to make go away is the first thing to shift, because our symptoms are not something to get rid of. Our symptoms are something to listen to. There's something to get curious about. There's something to pay attention to. And depending on the health crisis, it might be hard to do that because, again, of programming and conditioning and belief systems that we have about what it means to get healthy. Like if someone receives a cancer diagnosis, cancer for 30, 40 years has been framed and programmed into society as this death sentence. And maybe at one point it was, but with medical interventions, with where we are today, like everybody has cancer cells in their bodies. We're all walking around with cancer cells. Some just have them more expressed than others. But the cancer is not a death sentence. It's an opportunity to get curious. And so when I think about it from that standpoint, these symptoms that we have, instead of fighting them, making them go away, yes, relief is important, but to go down the path of looking for relief without actually having that deeper curiosity around what are the root causes, and there could be many root causes for a health condition. I just want to say it's not always spiritual, emotional, and mental, right? There are many other factors and facets that lead to poor health. And one of the things that I've noticed over and over and over again is that our belief systems dictate the types of interventions we might lean in towards. For example, like if we don't believe in our body's innate capacity to heal, we are not going to pursue holistic interventions. We're going to pursue surgery. We're going to pursue radiation. We're going to pursue chemotherapy. We're going to go down this path of thinking that the answer is outside of us because we don't actually trust our bodies. So I guess a long-winded question, when I think about the topical layer, those are the belief systems about how to get healthy that we've been learned and trained in. So like one piece is to examine that. And the second piece is like to really examine our own relationship with our bodies and to really get back in touch with why is our body communicating the way it is, right? And having that curiosity and restoring the connection to our bodies, to our intuition, to our senses, to our functioning nature, so that we can have more insight into what we're doing. And when you do that, that opens up a whole world of exploration. You start to learn and follow influencers and doctors and people that are actually teaching curiosity versus fear, right? And so to me, like, I guess that's a foundational principle in all of this, which is curiosity. Why is this showing up? And having the courage to ask that question. Because I think most people would rather be oblivious and just naive and say, yeah, I'm just going to go get this pill, this thing to make it go away, instead of actually taking the responsibility to understand that, wow, actually there's a deeper, more intricate root here that's going to require me to get more curious. And you know what? Curiosity takes effort. And so I just want to name that too. Like, I think this is why mindset's so important. I keep coming back to mindset with health, like having the belief system that your body can heal and that you have this incredible capacity. When you believe it, that's like foundational to really helping you get to the next level.
Yeah. So let's take a step back for a second. When somebody receives news about their health, maybe they get a health crisis, what do you see be the common responses that people typically have? And then you talked about it a little bit, but how do you see them then shift into that curiosity mindset?
So the first one I see is fear and panic. And we work with a lot of cancer patients. So that's like the first thing I see. Chronic disease and illness, autoimmune, those are more like real time, like continuously happening, right? So it's just tiring, right? To not know what's wrong with you, right? To try all the things and then nothing still work. Like there's like a different crisis in that moment of like, I'm out of options. I don't know what to do. I'm trying to do everything. Nothing's working. So it just depends on which crisis. And sometimes they're smaller. Like for me, my health crises, if I had to think of them, like was like really intense skin rashes. And I was trying everything, curiously trying to find, I cut out diet, I cut out gluten, I cut out dairy. I did all the supplementations. I went on a parasite cleanse. I did all these things and nothing was working until I went into a plant medicine ceremony and I asked the question, like, what's going on here? And I was painfully shown that I was carrying a ton of stored trauma in my gut, which was manifesting as a need for me to have control and trying to control the outcome, control the situation, control everything that was preventing any other therapeutic from actually working. So it wasn't until I looked at my relationship to control and the uncertainty and letting go and really trusting that the universe has my back, it wasn't until I actually started integrating those principles that my body began to heal. And so it doesn't matter where you're coming from. It could, but like for me, when I see a cancer patient, it's usually like, oh fuck, freeze, like it's like this panic, right? And then eventually with the right education, you come back into a sobering sort of reflection. Like, why did this happen? What choices did I make that brought me here? And then on the exploration of that, you could either go into depression or you could go into, okay, I may not have been perfect, but I'm ready to make some changes. And that's the space where I just want to encourage everyone to get to is that, okay, I fucked up. Yeah, I wasn't perfect. I may have dropped the ball because maybe it wasn't even my fault. Maybe I was unaware. But having a consistent flavor of forgiveness is really important, and self-compassion, forgiveness, I believe, on this journey, because if you don't have that, then it's going to be really hard for you to actually have the humility to make change. And humility is such a big part of this journey. What I see, at least a lot of the patients and clients that we serve at Liberate, like that journey of humility and curiosity, and the humility comes in asking for help. I believe that most health crises, at the root of it, it's this deep, deep, deep fear of asking for help. And when you get a crisis, when you get a diagnosis, when you're in a terrible autoimmune condition that keeps flaring up every moment, what does that force you to do? It forces you to ask for help. And most of the clients that we work with, including myself up until very recently, I'd say many people have a deep insecurity around asking for help. In fact, I was talking to a dear sister of mine was going through a bit of a health crisis. And when I kept asking her, what are you most afraid of? What are you most afraid of? Because your nervous system's going crazy right now just because you got lab results back. What are you most afraid of? And she's like, I'm most afraid that I'm going to open up something like this whole health journey of me looking at my labs is going to open up a Pandora's box that I'm not going to be able to go back from. I'm going to realize that I have to pay for all these health bills and I'm not going to be able to. And then I'm like, okay, what's the fear underneath that? And she was like shaking. She's like, I don't know. I was like, is the fear that you're going to have to ask maybe your dad or your family for help? And when I said that, she was just like, Raj, I would rather die than ask for help. And that moment, I just want to really capture this because this is what I think breaks us. Our bodies break because we are not willing to ask for help. So the relationship we have to that concept of being supported by others, what that means about us to receive help from others. And that's the deeper inner work that really is forced in in a health crisis. It's like, okay, I have to ask for help. I have to let myself be supported in ways that are really embarrassing sometimes. Maybe, and especially if you're handicapped or if you're if you're having to ask for financial help, which is so intertwined with shame. And so I bring this because this is normal. Right? I want to bring awareness to this stuff because this is to me like the root things that health crises are here to help you heal. Like I've seen this now in thousands of people. It's like these root programs around feeling like you're alone, not being able to trust other people to have your back. The universe gifted you a crisis so that you can actually see that there are so many people who want to help you.
Yeah. Yeah, Dr. Nasha was in here yesterday and she was talking about um cancer as being something that is bringing you straight into the present moment. That diagnosis, whatever diagnosis it brings you right back to here. And I think about those crisis moments when silly little things like, my apartment, my room might get very messy, but I'm not really here to paying attention to it. I'm like off thinking about work things or the future or my relationship. And there are these moments where you pick your head up and you go, wait, I'm here right now. And I wonder if we do that with our bodies as well, where we're so in our heads about things all the time that we neglect, unintentionally, maybe, neglect things that are alarm bells going off in our body on a daily basis to the point where the body feels like it needs to slam a sledgehammer
Well, I
down.
like to think one of our medical advisors, Dr. Olivia Leslar, says this beautifully. It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts, right? Like you just accumulate these little stressors from all areas of life. It could be a stressor from a relationship that then creates fuel and stress in the body, which then impacts the immune system, which impacts everything. Or it could be toxins that are in your environment that you weren't aware of. Mold, it could be in your environment that you weren't aware of. And like that, then just all these little things just continue coming until the body breaks. And most of the time it is happening to our unawareness because we're not attuned to our bodies. We're not listening to our bodies. We have too much going on. We distract ourselves, in fact, from feeling, right? Like we distract ourselves from feeling because we have an unhealthy relationship to feeling. Right? This is another relationship that I see so much in our client populations is like almost everybody has a deep fear of feeling because they think they're going to get lost in the feeling. If they open up what's there, they're not going to be able to close it. They're not going to be able to handle it. It's going to be too much. And so then we then disconnect. We overwork. We disconnect. We numb. We try to get on some type of a suppressive medication, something so that we don't have to feel what's here. And that journey of feeling what's here is the biggest journey of awakening, right? In all crisis, whether it matter just health, like relationships, and it's like, can you feel the depths of what's here? And again, this is not like to me, like this is where there's an opportunity to grow beyond it. Like when I think about like, okay, like how do you get to the other side of this? It's to realize that one, your body wouldn't be creating something that you can't hold and heal, right? So if you start to open something up, it's only going to be what you can feel, right? And if you and the beautiful part of this is you don't have to do this alone. A health crisis forces you to rely on other people, whether it's a doctor, whether it's a health coach, whether it's a friend, whether it's a community. It forces you to ask for help, forces you to ask and be vulnerable. And in that vulnerability, there's strength, there's power. You can borrow courage. There's so much that can be done when you really open up. And so normalizing that piece right now, I think is so important, especially in this, because I really feel like at the root of every specifically health crisis is an opportunity to expand your ability to ask and receive help. And when you really allow yourself to receive that help, that becomes the medicine. The help might come in the form, and that's then changing your relationship to receiving in general, right? Like receiving from the capital H her or the universe or God or whatever you believe in. It's restoring faith in humanity. And it's relieving this pressure that you got to do this on your own, right? Because that was, in my eyes, the belief system that led you to this in the first place, is believing that we got to do this all on our own. But you don't. We're all here to walk each other home. And these crises are such powerful opportunities to really reprogram our belief systems around that. Because then when you get healthy on the other side, you've got the wind of the universe behind your back. You've got community around you. You've got a network of doctors and professionals that supported you. This is such a beautiful opportunity to actually expand into a whole new version of belief about healing and health. And I keep finding the individuals that lean in with this frame and mindset end up creating this beautiful framing around how this crisis helped them. It's like this crisis helped me get used to receiving help. This crisis restored my connection to my body and helped me get comfortable feeling feelings. This crisis helped me really get clear on who I am, because underneath all those feelings were profound levels of insight and intuition and awareness about myself and what led to these choices. And now I can help other people not experience the same crises, the same challenges. I mean, this is where like this specific crisis is so powerful because it can transform. It can be the biggest wake-up call to help you step into a whole new version of yourself that is in such alignment. Like your mess becomes your message, your past becomes your purpose, your challenge becomes the offering that you give to the world. And it's a beautiful thing to really integrate and lean into the muck, the messiness with this framing, because what a beautiful possibility for your life. And if you don't believe that this is possible for your life because of whatever program you're stuck in, I'm telling you, there are thousands of people now that I have witnessed who are continuing to rise and awaken into the most beautiful versions of themselves as a result of the health crisis that they were dealt.
Yeah. And I love how you put that, because it is really all health crises. All health crises are a signal. They're a data point. If you believe inherently that your body is healthy and that the natural state of your body is health, then anything that is not that is just a signal from the body.
Well, I think it's important to name that that's a belief you have,
Mm-hmm.
right? You were also raised in a family of health. So that's what it's important to name these things. And I'm calling that because it's like, I don't think that's the norm.
Right.
Right. And so if we even had to, I'm glad you brought that up, because like that can be a norm for those listening to this podcast. Right? Like, what are the beliefs that get in the way of you, like you truly embodying that you are actually already whole? It is life and the circumstances of life that brought this sickness upon you. Right? Like, and there's so much stuff around genetics. People will be like,
Mm.
oh, like I got this because my mom had this or my dad had this. And sure, there's a lot of truth to how genetics can impact health. Not denying that. And they've now shown through Bruce Lipton and the biology of belief that our epigenetics, our gene expression, can change based on the environment that gene is in. And so your belief systems around what is possible for health can actually shift and transform the trajectory, the destiny that you are on.
Mm.
You do not have to accept fate as it is just because your parents and your grandparents and your great-grandparents experienced this. There's an alternate reality, but that reality can only be possible if you believe it. And that's why it's so I'm actually curious, what are some other foundational beliefs about health? Yeah, that was a good one. I mean, like
Mm.
for me, like I don't actually believe that the body is broken. I don't believe that there's anything wrong with us. I don't believe that you are broken. I believe that that we either made choices or were put in environments or accumulated stressors, toxins that pulled the body out of harmony, and now you're experiencing a dysregulated state. And you can come back to harmony, but we have to begin identifying and looking at not only what is causing it, but the choices we made that are causing it, or the unconscious programs that we inherited from
Mm-hmm.
family members, belief systems, society that are contributing to sickness, whether it's people pleasing or not being able to set hard, consistent boundaries. Like all of those actions lead to micro stressors on the body. And then eventually, if you don't actually practice emotional hygiene, it breaks the body.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that brings up for me is just the um the inherent belief that we are at harmony as ourselves, is hidden in so many people because it gets tweaked, it gets messed up so young that you believe that this natural state of your being is disharmony. And that
Whew, that's
is I think where a lot of these deep-seated beliefs come from is, well, if I've always been like this throughout my life, you haven't always been like that, but you can't remember a time where you weren't like that.
mm,
And so I think that's where it becomes this thing that sits on us as people, is we begin to identify with those symptoms. And something that my family's been huge on from the beginning is not putting negative labels on things in a chronic sense. So that I know a lot of people in my life who really identify with their sickness in a way that is like it's them. It's who they feel that they are. Whether that's a chronic disease or just a temporary thing, like they put labels on themselves, and then in a funny way, like your ego, yourself has to live up to the label that you put on yourself. But if I say to myself, no, my center is harmony. And even if I go through something that's more chronic, if I maintain the belief that my center is harmony, then eventually my belief is that I will get back to that place of harmony.
I'm so glad you brought this up because the identity is something that is unconsciously dictating our lives. Like if I always believe that if I believe I'm an anxious person instead of I am a person that is experiencing a moment of anxiety, two different frames. One is going to keep you trapped inside of this belief and this identity of being anxious, and you're going to see the world through that, which is also then if I'm an anxious person, there's no changing me. This is just how I am. This is how I've always been. I need to find a way to cope with my anxiety, as opposed to the opposite, which is I'm actually naturally calm and peaceful, and I'm experiencing a moment of anxiety,
Mm.
right? And so that's like the shift and the transformation. And I do believe that we get sickness to amplify those feelings, right? Like, so if like I have a dear friend who's going through a really, really, really crazy autoimmune journey right now. And it's like the thing, like I know in the beginning of her journey, I was like, what's wrong with me? And I guarantee you the autoimmune beginning was not the first time she's believed that. That belief has probably been a part of her life since she was a child. There's something wrong with me. What's wrong with me? Okay. And then that led to, I need to be this or do more or have this, and led her to overwork and achieve and everything until her body broke. And then she's trying all these different therapies and everything. But underneath it, none of it's working.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, what's wrong with me? And so until she actually addresses the what's wrong with me, which she is, and I'm watching her health transform, like, then this is the piece. It's like the what's wrong with me piece is actually the piece to heal,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because that's part of the identity, right? And that's part of and if we go to the other side, like let's say somebody who has a cancer diagnosis, now this is like a whole nother frame because the cancer was created for some reason. But cancer is a tricky one because now all of a sudden, if you never got love and you have cancer, now all of a sudden you're getting the love that you never got. And so getting rid of the cancer, why would you? And so there's belief systems around that too. So like, this is why it's so important to get honest. And I'm wanting to share all these different perspectives because whether you resonate with any of these or not, it doesn't matter. The point is to create awareness of all the different ways that our bodies and minds are interlinked and how our attachment to who we are and what we believe about ourselves and what we believe is possible dictates how we move through a health journey and dictates the success of you rising above your health journey into a version of you that is actually disease-free, that is vibrant and healthy and alive and has all of your needs met, right? Which I think is so possible. Like I'm looking at myself right now, like I've never had a serious disease. I used to be addicted to alcohol. And so if you want to call addiction a disease, I think addiction may have been my disease. I was addicted to work. I was addicted to alcohol. I was addicted to porn. I was addicted to all these things that were keeping me separate, disconnected from my body. And then that expressed itself as incredible inflammation, a lot of body fat. And so like and for me, even over the last 4 years, it's been like examining the root of why I'm addicted. Why, like, when do I reach for alcohol? When do I reach for the food that gives me comfort? And that curiosity has led to me now not drinking. I don't like I'm liberated. I feel energy. I'm alive and connected, and I feel like my health is getting better and better as I age. And so this is where I think, coming back to the premise of this podcast, it's like these crises, these health moments, these health clues, these health symptoms are profound opportunities to actually release parts of you that are not in alignment with who you really are. And because it's your body, it's so intimate, and it forces this discovery for those that choose to have it. Like I said, you could go down the path of just suppressing the symptoms, getting the medications, doing the things, or even go down the holistic path of doing all the supplements, of doing all the therapies, of going that path. But if you don't actually examine the root belief systems, the root constructs, the root identities that are currently being expressed as a result of your relationship to your health, your relationship to your body, your relationship to help and asking for help, your relationship to being alive, I think you're missing a really important piece. And that piece might be keeping you sick. But on the other side of looking at this piece, I believe, is massive freedom and massive health outcomes and miracle health outcomes, might I add, that you may not be able to access through just a linear approach of 1 + 1 = 2.
Mm-hmm. And this is, I feel like I have a bit of a unique perspective on this growing up in the family that I did, where health was so prevalent. Like it was just around all the time. And my stepdad, Dan, he was a bariatric surgeon and he did weight loss surgery for like 10 years. And he became very disenchanted with it because he would do these surgeries on people and they would lose 100 pounds. And then a year later, they'd be right back in there. And he realized, when you treat the symptoms of something and don't address the underlying root cause of it, you're never going to win. And so, that is this approaching the human as if we are a complex system of thoughts and feelings and beliefs. And sometimes the beliefs and like, oh, well, just believe you're healthy and you'll be healthy. That can kind of sound like mental jujitsu or like word salad sometimes. But truly, I mean, there is a very strong response from the body when we give signals from our brain that I am healthy, I am sick, I am aging, I am young. Like all of these signals that we give the body tell our genes what to say, tell our cells what to say. And so I've seen it happen over and over in their clinic when they address the root of what somebody's actually like experiencing or going through. And it might be emotional, but oftentimes it is dealing with these very core identity beliefs about who we are.
Well, I just want to name, like, most practitioners are not your parents, and they will never be able to do that, which is why I'm so bullish on this podcast, because it is your responsibility to know this, right? Like, and it sucks that the system doesn't teach it.
Hmm.
I wish more doctors, more practitioners, more insurance companies really adopted this mindset. Unfortunately, that's not the case,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is why it's so important to be your own health advocate, right? And to be curious and to practice that. And my intention with Liberate, my intention with this podcast, my intention with bringing on experts like Dr. Nasha Winters and Dr. Zach Bush and all the people that we're going to be bringing on to talk about this is that when you actually begin to use this health journey as an opportunity to identify the real roots, the underlying identities, the belief systems, the repressed emotions, the traumas, when we actually lean in, you give yourself an opportunity to not just heal what's present, but to transform the nature of your life into something that is so nourishing to your system. Like it is beyond just healing a symptom or a disease. It's like an entire profound level of living your purpose. And that's what's possible here. That's what's able here. And I am grateful for doctors like Dr. Nasha Winters, who does teach this and does empower this, and so many more that are out there sharing this information. But I think it's important to remember that, like, even these doctors, they can only share this information, but ultimately you got to be curious, ready, willing to really embrace this path. And what I can name is, on the other side of this path is bliss. On the other side of this path is freedom. It's unlimited peace. It's nourishing relationships. It's an incredible sense of purpose and movement through the world that is like you could feel your light as you move through the world because of who you've become and who you've chosen to become as a result of leaning into your crisis with this lens. And so I am so all in on helping people really do this, which is why Liberate right now in its current form is really focused on people on health crisis journeys. So we have a 90-day program for cancer patients, and we're going to be launching a 90-day program for chronic illness patients. But we're really focused on health because I see this. I see it so needed in the space because there aren't enough doctors that are speaking this truth. There aren't enough practitioners that really know how to guide this level of internal awakening and how to really give you a map and a compass so that you can actually lean into this health challenge as an opportunity to grow, evolve, and experience the breakthrough outcomes that you desire. So with that said, if you're interested in anything Liberate has to offer, you can go to www.liberate.health. That is LIBER 8.health. Learn about our upcoming offerings and programs, and just send me DMs if anything comes up for you. But yeah, so that's this week's crisis episode. This was a good one.
It was a good one.
I didn't know where we were going to go. We set an intention of what this was going to be, but I'm feeling really proud and happy of where this ended up. And anybody, as you're listening, if you have questions or comments, please DM me on Instagram at Raj_Jana, and just let me know your questions, and I'm happy to answer them. Yeah, so all right, well, I guess that's everything for this week.
Stay curious.
Stay curious. We'll have 2 more crisis episodes. I believe the next one will be on either relationships, or probably relationships, or work. I don't know what it'll be on, but just know that it's going to be really good. All right, love you guys, and I'll see you next week. Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Stay Grounded. I hope it inspires you to really lean into your health journey with a curious lens, and gives you a framework for thinking about transformation that isn't talked about enough. If anything I said on the podcast was resonant for you, head to www.liberate.health to learn about our 90-day programs and offerings to really support your awakening journey through health. Many individuals come in just because their doctors are needing them to really calm the nervous system. So our programs are really designed to help you become more resilient, to really remove the programs that are creating stress so that all the other therapies that you use can be more effective. And in the process, you learn more about yourself, and you allow this journey of awakening to actually be the medicine you need. So check those out, and thanks so much for being here. I'll see you next week.